How do you define a truly aligned go-to-market strategy for SaaS companies?
The alignment that you need is within the motion.
What are the key ingredients for maintaining that kind of momentum in SaaS?
Well, you actually have to understand what's contributing to that growth.
What are some other big mistakes SaaS companies make when trying to scale?
To take on too much.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of SaaS Stories. Today, I'm super excited to be joined by Dave Boyce from Winning by Design. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you, Joanna. We're across time zones today.
Absolutely. I typically am with these podcasts, which makes them that much more exciting. Now, you're a bit of a unicorn because you've got experience across product, sales, marketing, and customer success, which is just gold. How do you define a truly aligned go-to-market strategy for SaaS companies?
Another word for unicorn in this case, and that is old. Seen a few things, and also just curious and old. Like, when you're a curious person, you roll up your sleeves and you figure stuff out and you throw yourself back in the battle. Each time we sold a company, one time I stuck around for a while, but generally I just wanted to get on to the business of building again. So yeah, you end up seeing a lot. The and one of the things I saw a lot of, yeah, is go-to-market motions, like, a sales-led and enterprise, two-stage, inbound kind of inside sales motion, product-led motion. Um, the one thing I'm sure we'll talk more about, but you can't do it all. And the alignment that you need is within the motion, in my opinion. Like, I'm not trying to align across motions. I'm trying to align within the motion. So am I running the right marketing motion that matches the right qualifying motion that matches the right monetizing motion, which could be sales or product led, that matches the right onboarding, that matches the right retention. If I can get all of that aligned within the motion, then I'm good. And I'm going to tune that as almost like a production line in a factory. And if I go build a different production line, it's going to have a different set of motions, and I'm going to tune it separately. But I can't get confused and manage by averages, or I'm going to get all messed up.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting that you mention alignment because I'm always going on about sales and marketing alignment, and all the teams need to be kind of working with the same energy and goal. Is that what you find works really well?
Same energy. I like the idea of goal.
Mhm.
Like, I can't tell you how many times I've, seen a marketing leader give a presentation to a board, declaring up into the right victory, and then they leave the room, and then the sales leader stands up and says, "Well, we didn't quite get there. We'll get them next time." That's not alignment. Like, we're working towards an overall, and even that is still doesn't even contemplate what about CS, who is actually renewing a big base of ARR and trying to expand on existing customers. So if we want to look at growth, it's a system. It's not just a set of silos that sit next to each other. And we do have to be playing the same game. I totally agree. Alignment's a great word.
I absolutely agree with that myself. Now, you've helped grow multiple companies to 50% plus and more. What are the key ingredients for maintaining that kind of momentum in SaaS?
I'll tell you what it's not. Well, actually, it was from about 2000 to about 2020 or 2022 to be precise. It was just throw more money at the problem. Money was free. We found one thing that was working. We could just throw money at it. Oops, the unit economics are upside down. That's fine. We'll just throw more money at it. Oops, we're running out of market. That's fine. We'll color outside the lines and we'll just throw more money at it. We'll be able to rate. Like, that did work for a while. But if you really want to be sustainably scalable, you actually have to understand what's contributing to that growth. And that is that's an like a revenue architect mindset, not just a operate the factory mindset. Like, I have to understand, how was the factory built? Why is this there? Why am I running this motion? Why do I qualify these customers out and these customers in? Oh, it's because downstream I'm going to have a renewal problem. Okay, great. So I'm going to architect that as a system. And once I kind of have that thing going and I can see my renewals, my expansions, and my net new customer sales accruing into a repeatable, scalable motion, That's the key ingredient for 50% plus year over year growth. And by the way, you're not going to do that forever. You're going to do that for a little while. It's going to work its way down to 40, 30, 20. But you can do it for a while.
Yeah. If I read between the lines there, I think you were saying as well, like it's important to find the right customers, not just any customers. And that's kind of helps with the scaling. Is that right?
For sure. The sugar rush of an amazing, like big, and a lot of times this happens when I'm selling big contracts, but it doesn't just have to be big contracts. Um, a lot of times I'll go celebrate my new seven-figure customer, like, hurrah, we just won Horizon, we just won Citigroup. Question is, did you win them based on center of the bullseye, exact match with your fit, with your product? Or did you win them or did you make some promises beyond your roadmap? Are there some kind of digestion issues that you're going to have once you pull that seven-figure customer in? How long is it going to take you to actually get them to success? Is it going to take over your entire company or half of your company or a third of your company? So contracts can be a problem if you're not used to it, and contracts for a customer that is an off-label use of the product can be a problem. Like, yeah, it seemed good in the time, but now I'm going to fight for the renewal, fight again for the renewal. And it's take up a disproportionate amount of time. So clear, kind of center of their bullseye fit customers are the best customers.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I've seen this happen before where, companies have one giant customer and it's kind of funding most of the business and the staff are mainly working on this one client. They then lose that client and it's just, chaos in that organization. It's terrible.
Worst. Unfortunately, I have some of those battle scars. It sounds like you do too. That's not a scalable business. That's kind of like a custom dev business or a services business.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, with that in mind, what are some other big mistakes SaaS companies make when trying to scale?
A lot of this, um, it's all well intentioned, Joanna, right? Like we're all optimistic, we're all optimists. Like we're techno optimists. We're probably like generally optimists. That's why we do what we do. We take on hard problems, try to invent things that never existed before. That's great. You know, more power to all the founders out there who motivate themselves to do that. But that optimism can also encourage us to take on too much too soon. So like, oh, that's a problem I could solve. Ooh, that's a problem I could solve. Ooh, that's a customer I could serve. Ooh, that's a product I could build. Ooh, that's a market segment I could attack. Yes to all of that, but just because you can doesn't mean you should. So the biggest mistake I see is taking on too much too soon. Like, let's get it right for one customer segment with one customer in kind of in one market with one motion. Let's get that right. Let's get that scaling. Let's get that repeatable. Let's work out the kinks. Let's get to $10 million in ARR on kind of like that before we go bite off, whatever the next horizon is, an adjacent market, a channel motion, a enterprise something, a new adjacent product. Like, we'll get to those things, but we don't have to do it all at once.
Hmm. I'm definitely guilty of this.
We all are.
I think
We
a
all
lot
are.
of
Like,
but it also leads to burnout in a way, doesn't it? Because you're just like running around going, yeah, I can do everything, you're motivated, but there is a point where you hit the wall when you're like, oh, okay, step back.
it's taken huge companies down, like huge billion-dollar valuation, north of billion-dollar valuation companies down, not because the entrepreneur wasn't motivated, not because she wasn't talented, not because the team wasn't talented, not because the product wasn't good, just because they started too many fires and they couldn't tend them all at once.
Hmm, that's really interesting. Now, you've sold quite a bit of companies, and to major players as well, like Oracle, Amazon. Maybe for all the founders out there listening with an exit strategy, what makes a SaaS business attractive for acquisition?
Um, it is back to basics time, Joanna. Like we went through that growth at all costs phase, and what made a company attractive there was literally like growth rate, period. End of story. Um, and what I spent for growth didn't matter, and because we'd come fix that later. Then we went through a period of, oh, there's no money anywhere. Like, all the VCs and PEs kind of shut down for a little over a year. And then we had to like, oh, like we got to figure out how to be efficient. We do need growth now. Like it still is true. Growth does all the work in evaluation correlation. Like the rule of 40 is not equal weight. It's not profitability carries half and growth carries half. Growth carries most. Growth carries most of the valuation. So we need growth. But the kind of growth we need is sustainable and scalable. So, what we've been talking about in terms of like just go fine tune that motion so that the repeatable going after the same type of customer with the same value prop. I would rather run the exact same play and only succeed 70% of the time than try to go snowflake every single customer and go for an 80% or 90% or 100% success rate, because the latter thing's not scalable. And all acquirers know this. Like when they get in there, and I've had deals succeed and fail on this test. If it's repeatable and scalable, then they know they can plug it into what they're doing and they can keep running those plays. If it's not, if it's dependent on a super dynamic founder or a snowflake one at a time thing or an amazing engineer who's never been seen before, never will be again, those are not repeatable things that are scalable, and therefore they're not going to add value to the acquirer.
Yeah, got it. And I think a lot of people listening right now are probably wondering, how do you even get to 70% growth? And speaking of growth, maybe you talk a lot about product-led growth. Um, but tell us a little bit about product-led growth, and can we also touch on maybe some other tactics? Like I've heard sales-led growth, I've heard you know, customer-led growth. There's so many different ones. Which one do we choose?
That is a critical decision, and that decision happens early, because you're gonna decide which of those factory production lines are you gonna build from a GTM perspective, and so you're gonna lock into one early. But the very first thing you're gonna do is gonna be all founder led. Like, and even if you're starting a new product within an existing company, you got to do a decent amount of I'm going to call it founder led sales, but I'm interacting directly with the customer. I don't actually care if it's scalable. I just need to understand who is the customer, what is the job to be done that she has, how does she make progress against that job, and how can I meet her where she is with the product that's going to really work for her. So I'm going to be the number one sales rep, the number one customer success rep, the number one support rep while I'm figuring that all out. Then I got to make the decision, okay, I think I figured out this formula. Is this best suited for sales led? Meaning, it's going to be very hard for a customer to get out of the gates on her own with no assistance, including, matching up the value proposition, building the ROI case, going for budget, running through an initial pilot, or can I actually automate all of those things? In which case, many customers would rather do it on their own. Like many of us in our personal lives, like we don't want a salesperson selling us Snapchat uh, or Dropbox or Canva or speaking of Australian companies, Canva and Atlassian, two amazing, huge, giant PLG success stories. Like the two founders of Atlassian, they just said from the beginning, like engineers don't want to be sold to. They want to find the product and get their hands on it. So let's just build it in a way that I can self-serve in. So I will make that decision early, and it does depend on the kind of my target customer and the value proposition. And then once I make that decision, I want to live with it for a while until I've either proven to myself that it's wrong or I've been able to scale it to like $10 million.
So it sounds like, easy to use products, definitely product-led growth. Totally understand that. I mean, Canva, I got in there and it was so straightforward. I definitely didn't need a demo or anything like that. But
Totally.
with more complex B2B products that are in, say like industries that are also quite hard to understand, you think that might be more of a sales-led growth model?
Traditionally, that is indeed the case.
Yeah.
Now, we are creative. Like we entrepreneurs and business leaders are creative. So we are figuring out how to reduce the complexity, how to create more straightforward on ramps, how to build interactive demos, so self-service interactive demos, so that I can demystify that even if I'm trying to self-serve my way into a purchase. Even SAP has interactive demos and sandboxes that I can access before I make a purchase, which helps me educate myself like 70% of the way down the track before I have to start purchasing. So, and the other thing that we have to think about now is, well, what's the role of AI? Um, because even a complex product can be explained by an AI agent. So I might actually be in that kind of purchase process, and I may not need a human to help explain to me whether I need the gold, silver, or platinum package, whether I need this version or that version, whether it will work for my use case, whether there are any um, companies like me using it, because all of that could have been loaded into an agent's brain, and I could literally be talking to that agent at 11:30 p.m. at night and getting all the straightforward answers, not quota driven, without a human, and that also helps me get a ways down the track.
No, that's really interesting. And I think, more and more we're going to start using AI agents for absolutely everything in our lives, unfortunately. But that's the way of the world. I've also seen the self-serve model grow substantially, especially since COVID days. You know, digital transformation kind of sped up more than it should have. Everyone was buying B2B software as a self-serve, even software that was worth, in the millions of dollars. I think that went up by 30% or something like that. What's your take on the self-serve model, and where does sales and maybe customer success play a role there?
Yeah. So I much prefer talking about it as self-serve versus product-led or AI-led or
Yeah.
um, self-serve is indeed, I think, the way the world is going. Like, I think we all would prefer to educate ourselves until we wouldn't. So the chief customer officer for Canva, a guy named Rob Giglio, he he says, "Look, I want my customer to succeed on her own for as long as she wants to be on her own, and then when she gets to a place where it would help her to get some help, I want her to be able to raise her hand, get some help. We're going to show up not with the question of, oh, what can I sell you? But as a human, we're going to show up with a question of, hey, how can I help? So I've already, she's already experienced with Canvas, she's already experienced a lot of the stuff you experienced. But now maybe she wants to standardize across her department, or maybe she wants to do something that would require some like infosec approval or legal approval from the company where she works. And that's something that she's not equipped to go do on her own. Hey, could I get some help? Sure. So here comes a salesperson. Salesperson helps her get through those hurdles. Now she continues on her impact journey, and that's amazing. But in Rob's view, it's my choice. When I want to talk to a human, I can talk to a human. When I want to talk to a robot, I can talk to a robot. When I want to just get hands on the product and get started, I can do that too at my choice.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think, yeah, talking to humans might become more and more appealing as AI takes over the world slowly but surely.
Oh my goodness. We were on vacation a couple weeks ago, and I was going back and forth in the car with a AT&T agent, and my family was making fun of me. They're like, "You're getting so upset, but this is what you preach. Like, you want automated GTM." I'm like, "I know, but I can't get through this agent right now, and I just need to talk to a human." But it'll get better. That's the worst it'll ever be. Today's the worst it'll ever be.
That's true. It can only get better from here. Absolutely. And we will talk about AI in more detail in a second. But first, tell me a little bit about winning by design. What problems are you solving for the SaaS world? How did you get started in winning by design?
Amazing. So my journey to winning by design was through, like you said, building and selling companies, and then we sold a company about 4 years ago, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And what I wanted to do next was write a book and dive into product-led growth and automated GTM. I called the founder of Winning by Design. I said, "What are you doing about automated GTM?" He's like, "Why don't you come over here and figure it out with us?" So that's my journey. But Winning by Design is a growth advisory firm. We generally work with companies between 20 million and 500 million in ARR. We don't work with a lot that are over 500 million, a few. Canva's one of them. Um, We don't work with many below 20 million, but it's really those kind of that I've got the product market fit right. I've scaled to a certain point. I've got to kind of rebuild and architect and make sure that I've got scalability architected right into the company. How do I do that? We work on an advisory basis with those companies.
Amazing. What's the general advice that you find yourself giving to some of those companies that they absolutely need?
Well, we've developed, and when I say, yeah, we've developed 6 models that really help you think about where you are in your growth journey and what would be appropriate to focus on. Like if I'm $10 million and um, I'm focusing on things like security and sustainability, I'm probably way out of what I really need to be focusing on is making sure I have repeatable motions built in and a data model structure that allows me to kind of run experiments against that go to market motion so I can fine tune that production line. So, what to focus on when is one thing that we work with customers on. Which GTM motion makes sense? You asked it before, like, should I be running PLG? Should I be running a two-stage inbound motion? Should I be running an enterprise motion? Well, let's look at it. Let's look at the unit economics. Let's look at the customers, and let's make sure that we've got the finely tuned factory line. And then we've got some other models that help you think about the math and the long-term growth prospects and how ARR compounds. Um, but really, what to focus on? If I were to say one thing, it's what to focus on when.
One thing at a time.
One thing at a time. Like can't do it all at once. So let me
Yeah.
go tackle this thing because it matters now, and then I'll tackle that thing because it's going to matter when I get to 20 million, and then I'll go tackle this thing because it's going to matter when I get to 100 million. Um, and there's a we've seen this playbook a lot of times. So especially for a first time founder, that can be really clarifying. Like, thank you. Like I've got board members telling me I got to worry about all sorts of things, and some of it is relevant now, and some of it is relevant, but not until later. And so just helping them parse that.
Yeah, interesting. For all the marketers listening, and selfishly for me too, because I'm in marketing, but what are some marketing campaigns, strategies, that you have found always work well for SaaS, for scaling SaaS?
Um, Here is a often missed opportunity. I think most of us kind of forgot this. Some AI native companies are leveraging it, and a lot of PLG companies are leveraging it, but a lot of kind of just B2B SaaS native kind of run and gun companies forget how valuable our customer base is. And so we have marketers aimed at non-customers. And then and meanwhile, we have $20 million worth of ARR locked up in existing customers. Of course, that they can expand, great. But they can also be advocates. Like each of those customers probably has between 10 and 50, maybe even 100 users. Each of those users is a human. Each of those humans has a network. And in today's world, a new buyer is going to go to her network before she goes to me to figure out what the best solution is here. So I would not sleep on the users of my product as campaign vehicles as a marketer. Like I want to create heroes out of my individual users. I want to help them tell their stories. I want to tell it may be the individual users, it may be the managers, but I want them to tell their stories. Like we brought this product into our organization. We went up into the right on this dimension. I would like to help other people do that. So building kind of opportunities for user-led growth, I think, is a slept-on opportunity that every SaaS company has.
I love that advice. I think it just makes me remember a quote by Jason Lemkin. He says, customer success is where 95% of the revenue is. And it's so true. It's so much easier to get more growth from existing customers, but also get them to refer you as well, because there's definitely people within their networks. Also, they're moving around from position to position.
Absolutely.
So there's kind of new companies that you can get to know. Absolutely. Now, you've served on multiple boards. You're a busy guy, but one in particular is Forrester. I've done multiple courses with Forrester from demand gen to account-based marketing. Absolutely love their work. Can you tell us a little bit about your time at Forrester, what you've learned?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big thing at Forrester, there will be no big secret if you're reading the annual reports and the 10Ks, and listening to the analyst calls, the Wall Street analyst calls. A big thing of Forrester is how do we disrupt ourselves in the age of AI? So,
Mm,
there was a day when the source of all truth in an emerging market, and this was true for Forrester and the dot-com boom, which is ancient history for most people listening to this. The source of all truth was the Forrester analyst who, was right at ground zero figuring out a dot-com strategy, an e-commerce strategy, all the players, all the platforms, all the service providers. That day is not today. A lot of that information is exists out there, and I can get access to it just on a generalized AI model like Claude or ChatGPT. So Forrester has to figure out how to automate, and we're doing this, how to automate a lot of the work that we do in terms of research and publication and access to information. But then also, how do we add, and this is something Forrester's always been good at, on top of that, how do we add an analyst take that it will be useful, that will allow, you, Joanna, or me, Dave, to get a takeaway out of all that information rather than just swimming around in the data.
it's interesting. And so, what can you give SaaS founders needing to talk to the board tips on, like how should they be speaking to the board?
Ooh, that's a big question, Joanna. I can tell you, I can give you some mistakes that I've made when I've had my own board. And the main mistake that I've made is not having enough courage of my own convictions. So, like, especially in the founding mode, when you're looking for product market fit, when you're looking for go to market fit, the person in the room who knows the very most about your business is you. It is not the board members. But often, because they cut a check, they cut me a check for $10 million or $30 million, I think I need to listen to them. Yeah, there's some stuff that they know, but mostly I know more about my market than they do. So trust your humanity, trust your instincts, and be courageous. Like, when you see something, be courageous. You don't want to be belligerent. We've all seen the entrepreneur who thinks, she knows everything and she's the only one who knows anything, and dismisses and everything from the board. Got it. That's no good. But I want to trust, I want to trust what I see, and I want to speak straight to the board. The other thing I want to do is be vulnerable. Like, if something's not working, I remember I went to an advisor named Clayton Christensen one time. I've been working on this company for like a year and a half, and he could just tell from my just the way I was trying to sell through it with all sorts of positivity and optimism. And he's like, Dave, I can tell that it feels like you're pushing a rock up a hill. And I'm like, yeah, it does. And he's like, okay, that happens. The answer is not push harder. Like, the answer is not pretend everything is fine. Like, you got to go find water flowing downhill, and you'll know it when you find it. So he had to drag it out of me. He had to drag vulnerability out of me. But these board members have seen a lot, even though they maybe have not built a company in your market. They've either built other companies or they've been on boards of other companies, and there's nothing you can tell them that they haven't heard before. Nothing. So just be upfront. Like, don't pretend that everything's great. Be vulnerable, and ask them for
Mm.
advice, see what they've got, and then filter it through your lens, and then go work on it in a way that makes sense to you.
I love that advice. Be vulnerable. And, like people are scared to do that because they think they'll get judged or they'll get, thought of as less than. But really, the board's there to help. They want to help. So by giving them that vulnerability, yeah, you're opening yourself up to a lot of opportunities, right?
Yeah, and the truth is, depending on who you've raised from, like, I've raised from angels who I didn't get money back to. I've raised from angels who I did give money back to, and institutionals. But angels is really, that's like really personal. It's like friends and family, like someone you have a personal relationship with. They write you a check for $100,000, $200,000. Whoa, like, that's a lot of money. Like, oh my goodness, like, I better take care of that. And then you can't get it back to them. It feels
Mm.
horrible. But when I've and honestly, I've avoided conversations with those people while things were going bad, because I just didn't want the discomfort. And in this case that I'm thinking of specifically, I then circle back to them after all the smoke had cleared, after the smoking crater was completely evident. We were going to walk away from this thing with our lives and not much more, and they didn't get any money back, and apologize to them. And they're like, Dave, I I didn't give you any money that I couldn't lose. And if you had made money for me, I wasn't going to share it with you. If you lose money, I'm not going to blame you for it. Like that's the game. So they
Mm.
understand the game. So just be vulnerable with them while you're trying to figure things out. Don't wait for the apology later because nothing can be done at that point.
Yeah, yeah, that's great advice. Um, I did promise we were going to come back to AI. So now's the time to chat about AI. What's some of the most exciting ways you've been using AI and AI agents to help you automate, day-to-day tasks at Winning by Design or even just life in general? I mean, I know I use it for personal use as well. It plans all my holidays for me.
Yeah, I love that actually. We had a plan a holiday recently. It's so interesting. You got to go verify that things that it's suggesting actually exist, but mostly it was pretty dang good. Um At Winning by Design, we have a couple of agents running right now. One is an inbound SDR. So if you go to the winningbydesign.com site, you can meet an AI agent named Jack. You can have a conversation with him about the types of things we're talking about. He's read the revenue architecture textbook. He's read all the Winning by Design frameworks. He's read all of our advisory materials. And then he's been trained to qualify you as a potential customer. So he's literally running our methodology, which is called Spiced. He's looking for situation, pain, impact, critical event, decision. So situation is who are you? Pain is kind of what are you experiencing right now? Impact is how could I help? Critical event is are you working against any calendar event or anything in the future that that would drive urgency into this? And then decision is how would we make it? So if you go talk with Jack, he's running that. He's trying to figure out like is this a place where I can help? And if so, he'll hand you off to an AE and he'll surface a calendar and just book a time. And if not, then he'll steer you to like a self-service course or a book or something. So that's one agent. We've got a couple of agents doing stuff like that, Joanna, but it's um, the critical thing is that those agents are all working inside of a system. We talked before about things as an aligned system. You don't want just this agent off doing what her own thing and that agent off doing his own thing. That would be more like growth hacking. And great, you'll get empty calories, kind of sugar rush out of a little bit of, like SEO optimization over here or a little bit of, but what you want it is all working inside into against the same kind of integrated view of your GTM, which we codify in what we call a bow tie data model. And so we can run these experiments. We can see where we're improving on onboarding or on retention or on expansion or on acquisition or on awareness generation. And we can feed that all into it. And we can employ one agent over here, a human over here, an agent over there, and they're all working on the same system.
That sounds really fascinating. I might have Jack on the podcast next.
Nice. Oh, you show that's really, we've never done that. That would be very interesting.
I wonder what they'll say. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of scary thinking about it, because I think I recently played with an AI where you fed it a white paper and it turned it into an interview between two people, and it actually sounded so real. I was like, well, there's your podcast.
Oh, good. Yes. I think you're probably talking about Notebook LM. It's really
Yeah,
good,
that's
right?
the one.
Really good. Yeah. Fantastic.
Absolutely. Um, you also teach at BYU, amongst many other things that you do in the world. I mean, how do you find the time, first of all? And second, what do you believe today's SaaS founders need to understand that wasn't so obvious maybe 10 years ago?
Yeah. It's really fun to teach, Joanna. Like, keeps you sharp, forces you to be on top of your game. It's the way that it's one of the ways I forced myself to kind of write the book that I told you I aspired to write after we sold this last company. I'm proud to say it's now written and will be released in August. But forcing yourself to teach something is a really, really good way to learn it. And I was able to get guests into the classroom and really crack open case studies and really understand kind of the underlying principles of AI and product-led growth. Um, But what I would tell a founder right now, and you're right, I work with several of them, is the playbooks that got us to here. So you're looking out at all the people that are running successful SaaS companies. The playbooks that got them to where they are will not get them to where they need to go because the entire world has changed. I've spent the last week on the
Mm,
road with CEOs and CROs that work in private equity portfolio companies. And they all know, even though they're sitting on top of a 50 or 80 or 100 or $150 million ARR company, they all know that the playbooks that got them to that point are not going to get them forward. Okay, well, which playbooks will get them forward? AI native playbooks will get them forward, which actually gives you, the founder, an advantage because you might actually know more about that than your competition does. So it's about speed. It's about speed. Just like have the courage of conviction to go architect your way forward. And if you can go faster than your competitors in your market, you will have the advantage.
yeah, that's interesting. AI, tell me a little bit about more about AI natives. Like, how can CEOs use that to their advantage?
Yeah, so that's the conversation we've been having over the last several weeks. We hear these crazy stories, right? Like Cursor to 100 million, and I think this week they announced 500 million in ARR with 30 employees. I bet they have a few more than that, but the last count we saw was 30 employees, 500
Wow.
million revenue. And then we've got Replit and Lovable and doing similar things. Um, those are AI native. They're not employing salespeople. They're not writing their own code. I mean, they're writing 10, 20, 30% of their own code, but agents are writing the rest. They're running all their own GTM through their own kind of like user-led, customer-led marketing, like we were talking about. Like they've just architected that all in. Okay, cool. So let's say I'm a CEO. If I'm a CEO founder, I could probably go copy a decent amount of what those companies are doing. I would be going to school on that and figuring out how much I could replicate. But if I'm a CEO kind of a SaaS native company and we got 10, 20, 30 million in ARR already, and I'm watching them over there do that, I also want to copy some stuff. Like I want to see what's working. I can't just rip and replace what I'm already doing, but can I get an AI agent running my demos for me? Yes, I can. Can I get an AI agent building SEO pages in the hundreds? Yes, I can. Can I get an AI agent qualifying inbound demand? Yes, I can. Can I get an AI agent listening to all my conversations and figuring out which customers are happy and which ones aren't? Yes, I can. So there's a lot of stuff that I can start automating that will speed up, that will not only help my humans perform better, but also offload some of the tasks. And that is what we need to be doing right now. Because if we don't do it, someone else will do it, and they'll just run right past us while we weren't paying attention.
100%. Yeah, I think there's going to be a massive gap between those that use AI well and those that don't. But speaking of all these tasks that AI agents can do, I mean, with that in mind, what skills are you looking for when you're hiring a human?
So yeah, the real kind of one of the real sources of angst right now is the novice gap. Like, I've got kids in college, graduating college. I have six kids, Joanna. Some already graduated, but they're right in that age, right? They're just launching careers. And so, are there any careers left for a novice, or is AI doing all the easy to do stuff? And now I have
Mm.
no on ramp into a big person career anymore because there's no kind of entry level jobs left. Well, I get it, but for the AI literate person, I think there are. Like I have a 17-year-old, that's our youngest kid, whose summer job is training AI agents. That's his summer job. He's not working the drive-through. He's
How
not working
exciting.
anything. He's training AI agents. What does he know about AI agents? Nothing. But he has courage, and he's smart and he's creative, and so we need people like that. Um, and even when I'm hiring at higher levels, I want to hire AI literate people. I do not want to hire the person who's trying to keep AI out. I want to hire the person who's figured out how to pull AI close in any job, CS, sales, marketing, doesn't matter. They've figured out how to leverage AI either in a bespoke way, like you're doing for your holiday planning, or in an architected way, like what Jack's doing on our website. Anybody with any of that experience is highly, highly interesting to me.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think someone who embraces technology and AI and has a passion for it, and therefore they'll learn it in record time as well.
For sure.
Dave, my last question for you, a bit of a tradition on the podcast, is if you could go back in time and give yourself one bit of advice, what would that be?
Um, I'm going to encapsulate it in a little phrase that hopefully, people will remember, and then I'll explain it. But what I would say to myself is that, Dave, like this one thing, remember this one thing, and you will go far. Courage is in short supply, no matter the arena you're in. Courage is in short supply. In a corporation, courage is in short supply. In the startup world, courage is actually in better supply. But you can always deploy courage to your advantage, like stepping into the unknown. Like even in the startup world right now, like you said, everything's changing. We're all going to be disrupted by AI. Okay, cool. So the courage, run to the problem with courage, figure it out, and and the in the land of the blind, one eye is king. Great. First to the ball is the one who's going to figure it out. That takes courage. Deploy that courage. Don't operate from a kind of mindset of play not to fail. Operate from a mindset of get to the problem sooner than anyone else with courage, and everything else is going to work itself out. Like it really will. Like the sun will come up tomorrow. You will figure out how to pay your bills. You will solve problems as you go. And the closer you can get to kind of the coal face of the problem, the better. And that's a function, in my opinion, more a function of courage than anything else.
I love that. It made me think of a book that I recently read called The Obstacle is the Way. And it's all about what you just said, like have the courage to go through the obstacle, learn about it, like don't run away from it, don't, be afraid to fail, just keep going, that this is the way forward.
I'm gonna check that out. The obstacle is the way. That
Mm.
sounds like a good
Yeah, no,
listen.
it was a really good read. Speaking of good reads, maybe just give us a quick intro into your book. Where can we get it? And I think you mentioned August as a release date.
August is the release date, but you can order it now. I went with the traditional publisher, and they've done an amazing job. They've got it out on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, anywhere that you would order books. Uh, International too, like crazy. It's available in will be available in Chinese. It's available in Japanese booksellers. Um, so you can. It's called Freemium. The book's called Freemium. Go to any of those places and just search Freemium. And if you have to search my last name too, once in a while I've found that, but mostly it just comes up under the name Freemium, and it's all about product led and AI led growth.
Amazing. I'll definitely be getting that. Dave, thank you so much for being on this show. I think we've got some really good advice, for all our audience. You've been amazing. Thank you so much.
I love it, Joanna. You're gonna have a lovely day. I can tell in Sydney with the sun streaming in behind you. It's so great. We're at the end of our day, but I'll have a good weekend day starting tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I think the future looks good here. So
Love, love,
I hope
love.
you have
Thank
a
you so
lovely
much.
day.
All right.